Thank you, Michiel. Well, before my conclusion, of course, I have a few additional actions to propose based on your inputs. 27 of them, Michiel, I hope it's okay. Actually, I have only 4. One pretty interesting one based on David's examples is one of you intends to review all of their safety procedures to see how they can be improved by, teaching and using your methodologies. Very good one. One which I like particularly, looking at how AR and VR can make seniors' lives better. I think it's very appropriate, and thank you so much for having this action on you. Please talk to me about the results, of course. Then a very good one, move my crypto to cold storage. I think that's a real good idea. If the storage will be big enough is the question. And then there is one which is proposed for metamorphosizing criminal activities, which I'm not allowed to say more about. So these are the 4 I wanted to mention. By the way, now that you have your actions, what do you have to do? You have to ruggedize them, okay? Find the willing, able, ready person who will do it. Fix the date in the next 2 weeks for having the first results, and make sure your client knows that you are working on it so that they put the pressure on finishing the action. You might remember that. So, time to conclude. And of course, I'm not going to try to summarize what we heard. It would take too much time. And the richness of what we heard is, in my book, phenomenal. Yesterday afternoon, obviously, and this morning again. Extraordinary. I mean, I'm in awe in front of what my friends Michiel, Menno, Sander, and their team do. And it's time to express gratitude to them. This summit, I believe, is an intellectual fountain of youth. Now, I might need it more than you do, but I think it does good to all of us. So thank you so much, my friends and colleagues. Now, I have actually on our topic 3 observations. And I'll finish with a practical tip, because without a practical tip, why should you have come here for 2 days? First observation is we saw amazing photographs of metamorphosis. I mean, these caterpillars transforming into, metamorphosizing into butterflies. The images have been extraordinary. And I think they justified Michael's description of metamorphosis being a magical transformation. However, then thinking of business, I said to myself, well, do we need metamorphosis in 2022 for business? We have been at transformation for 20 years. We have been at technology for 50 years. Do we need that kind of huge step? And it led me to think of a couple of examples where, in fact, some of our clients did true metamorphosis. And I might mention 2. Think of automotive companies. They have spent, if my recollection is correct, around 80 years protecting themselves from customers, establishing the dealers' networks as the line of defense against customers. And now suddenly, 180-degree turn, they want the customers in, they love them, they want to take them away from their dealers. That requires a metamorphosis, first of all for the automotive companies, and then also for the dealers. Another example, after the acquisition of a large company called Alton, you might be interested to know that Capgemini is around 50,000 people working in engineering. And we deal, therefore, with a lot of R&D organizations. And the R&D organizations, a number of them I know, had one characteristic: totally closed. By golly, no information of any kind should come out of this R&D organization, which, by the way, often means no information comes in the R&D organization, okay? Now, suddenly, what do they want? They want to embrace the world. They want to work with everybody. They want to be associated with all kinds of startups, from totally closed to resolutely open. Isn't that a metamorphosis? And then more, what we heard yesterday, I think, were extraordinary examples of metamorphosis for business. Because if the Bartels doctrine says that we need to build happiness into our processes and systems, nobody can tell me that this was on our mind a year ago. Nobody. And this is metamorphosizing, at least potentially, the way we think about our applications and systems. And then moving from experiences to transforming ourselves. Hi, Joe. I mean, this is something which represents also such a huge change in the relationship with customers, also with clients, by the way. I cannot imagine something more metamorphosizing than this. So, Michael, the good news is the title of your summit was well chosen. You don't need to change it right now. Hope you are happy about that. That was my first observation. My second one is that metamorphosis in nature is actually not very well understood. I don't know if you looked into Encyclopedia Britannica or Wikipedia or whatever on metamorphosis, but this is one of these areas of science which is where we are still struggling. And we are struggling we are less struggling now on the how, because we have so many ways of observing and capturing the information that apparently we understand well the how it happens, which enzyme is going to change this, which acid is going to trigger that, etc. What one doesn't know is the why. Why would evolution have created the metamorphosis mechanism? There is one theory which says that it is actually to diversify food sources. So there is a food source for the first stage of evolution. The caterpillars, they eat on the ground, I assume, they can't fly. And then there are other sources of food for the butterflies, for example. So that the same species actually has twice the sources of food than they would without metamorphosis. I find it absolutely striking, just to try to imagine that. However, in business, as we are talking business metamorphosis, in business, there is no enzyme, there is no acid, there is only one thing, and this is technology. Technology has played a role in transformation forever, okay? We had the technology streams in our transformation projects. But now, with metamorphosis, technology is not just part of the transformation, even an important part of transformation. Technology is in the driver's seat. First of all, it gives you the why. The why is because without metamorphosis, companies will die. And it gives you the how, because technology is the instrument of the metamorphosis itself. So technology is the why and the how of metamorphosis. And by the way, of course, only the bright side of technology. We heard of some darker sides of technology. Only the bright sides should be used, obviously, for metamorphosis. And then my last observation is again referring to the statistics in nature. Apparently 65% of insects do grow and live with and through metamorphosis. 65%, 2/3 of the insects. Amazing. Never thought of that before this session. The difference with the business is that in business, 100% of businesses have to metamorphosize. 100%. Because the butterfly, when it flies, when it leaves the cocoon, whatever, the butterfly takes flight, and it's no longer a business. So you had the business caterpillar, and when the butterfly leaves after the metamorphosis, it's no longer a business. It's a technology business. And all of us have to move from normal businesses to becoming true technology businesses. And this is, an enormous change from business to technology business. These were my 3 observations. Now, practical tip is the following. And by the way, inspired by the resolute boating of David Rose, without consideration for his life and survival, just for the advancement of science, is very impressive. And my practical tip will be based, therefore, on the notion of the compass in a boat, okay? And the compass, when you are sailing, for example, when you want to go upwind, etc., of a certain angle, there is this notion that you can go, depending on the boat type, between 35, 40% of left of your route, or how do you say in English? I always forget the term, or 45% to the right. So you have something like a 90% natural change of direction, which is easily possible. And this is the change of direction you get with transformation. What you want to get is a minimum of 90% deviation from your route in order to be in a metamorphosis mood and mode. And it would be even better if you could do 135, 180, 225, or 270. And I suggest that each time a new project is proposed to you, a new idea, a new business model, that you ask yourself, what's the degree of change from our present course? And you should reject everything which is below 90%. That's my practical tip. Thank you very much.